Friends, fans, and fine folk, grab your drinks and snacks and come on down to the campfire for this short rest with me and my friend Phoenix Cross. Oh my goodness, we're in person. Yeah, I love a good in-person tavern chat.
Yeah.
How you doing? It's good to see you.
So good.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear
excited.
it. Yeah, so we're here in the Viva taverns to have a chat. For anyone who doesn't know, let's do a very quick introduction. Who are you?
I am Phoenix Cross. You'll probably know me most notably from acting with Viva La Dirt League. I played Willow in Baelin's Route. I played Sneaky Minaj in Sneaky Minaj in our Tales of the Misfits campaign, which Rob so amazingly DM'd.
Thank you.
You've
been in a whole bunch of the board skits and stuff, like Rowan's obstreperous niece and all the rest of it. So that's who you are. You're mostly an actor. Is that how you'd predominantly describe yourself?
I am an actress, but I also pretty regularly stream.
Streamer as well.
Yeah.
TikTok creator.
Oh.
Soon, I don't know. Maybe by the time this comes out, you're a big star on TikTok. Cool. So welcome to Short Rest. This is a chill conversation series, not so much an interview as just a chat. We're going to set up a short rest. If we're having a short rest, we must be a short resting from something. So help me DM in this moment. What's the mission that we are on, from which we need a short rest? Are we in like something cinematic and extravagant of like a big heist of something from the volcano layer, or are we just like a simple like helping a farmer find his sheep?
I was immediately thinking stealing something.
So we're in the middle of a stealing heist thing.
Yeah.
What are we heisting?
We are stealing a magical vase that has the soul of some ancient king.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and he's going to give us lots of powers if we free him.
Ah, so the soul of the king is in this magical vase. Who's got the magical vase?
Golden ancient dragon.
So we're stealing this thing, and the golden ancient dragon knows that the king's soul is in the vase?
Yeah.
It's just not just like a part of his hoard. He knows it's like protected.
It's extra protected.
So we're in the middle of this quest to steal this ancient vase, and we're having a short rest. What are we eating and drinking on the short rest? In real life, you've got Sprite and I got water, but like as our characters, do you have like a go-to drink when you're in character as a D&D character, or do you just like, does it depend on what character you're playing?
Well, it actually depends on what character I'm playing, but I was going to say the blood of my enemies.
Of course, not a very good drink.
No.
It's in the SAS survival guide to not drink blood because it will dehydrate you more than it will hydrate you.
Yeah, but I'm strong. So.
So you're drinking the blood of your enemies and then washing it down with water.
Yeah.
But also I do need to keep hydrated. So.
I'm doing that magical thing where you like pour and it's just blood.
Blood all down your shirt. No, that's even worse.
How did you get that? I just killed something.
Blood of my enemies, of course.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're setting up a little short rest. Also, I normally start with my short rest guests asking them like how they got their name, because often I'm interviewing someone from like a channel or something that has a channel name. So obviously your name is just your name, but there is actually a topic of conversation to be had there, because so many people think it is a stage name because of how fucking cool it is.
Thank you.
Phoenix Cross is one of the coolest names. Have you ever gone through that period that a lot of kids go through of like, oh, I hate my name and I hate my parents for giving me that name, or have you just always loved it?
I've always loved my name.
It's so cool.
My name is really fucking cool, but I do hate my middle name.
Oh.
Because my middle name is Shirley.
Phoenix Shirley Cross.
Yeah, like literally, it's my full name, Phoenix Shirley Cross.
That is so not the right. Did somebody else get the job of naming your middle name than your first name? Like, those are different worlds to pluck from.
There's such wild different worlds. So I was actually called Phoenix because my nana survived a fire around the time that I was born.
That's a cool name for it.
Yeah, and like obviously my family's last name is Cross. But yeah, whether I was going to be a boy or a girl, they decided like Phoenix, and so I'll be Phoenix Cross. And then Shirley was just because of my godmother lived on Shirley Street in Auckland. So
that's not even a good reason for it. I was like, you named after your godmother, fine, but I was like, your godmother's street?
Yeah, right. I can't actually remember my godmother's name because
The
I
thing
just remember Shirley.
she wasn't like just born on North Street or something, just something a little like.
Phoenix North Cross.
I mean, that would have probably been the North Star, North Cross.
Yeah.
Or like, what's a crazy street? Karangahape Road. Like, she'd been born on Phoenix Karangahape Street cross.
I think my family would do it.
She was born on Great South Road. Her name's Phoenix Great South Road Cross.
Oh my goodness.
That's the craziest naming story. That's amazing. But you do go by Nixie as well with your friends.
Yes,
Is that a nickname that you go by on? Do people not in your friend circle also call you Nixie? Because I always find like when I do message you, I'm like, do I go with Phoenix? Is that too formal? I haven't like been officially told, hey, call me Nixie.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know if that's too like personal or and stuff. So
no,
I don't know.
it's totally fine.
Like Nixie?
Calling me Nix or Nixie
Nixie.
is totally up for whoever. I like particularly tell people that because if people want to nickname the name Phoenix, they call me like Fee or Fifi, and I fucking hate that. Yeah, I know so many dogs called Fifi. Like, don't call me Fifi, call me Nix. The end of my name is the cool part.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, Nix or Nixie. You're more than welcome to call me Nix.
I'll just go with the middle part, Eenie.
Yeah, Eenie. Hey, Eenie.
Did you have any other weird nicknames growing up?
My aunt called me Flannel. Yeah, and I don't know why. To this day, I'm still not sure why. She just be like, "Hi, Flannel," and I'm like, "Hi."
Sure. Okay. You should inquire one day. There's probably like a story that you just were too young to remember of like you messing around with a flannel
or something.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, let's get into talking about D&D, shall we? Because that's what most people in my channel like to hear about. Let's start early days. What's your experience with gaming in general, not just D&D, but like board games, tabletop role-play games, any of that stuff. Even just imagination, playing in the street kind of games.
Yeah, I've always really loved board games and like would force my family and my cousins and stuff to play games, and especially card games and stuff with me when I was little. And I was always the one that, like, I always dealt and I always explained the games.
Yeah.
So, I really like, I kind of like the social aspect of a bunch of people coming together to like work on some sort of project or thing together. So yeah, as far back as I can remember, as a
Always
little
loved
kid,
gaming. How about your sort of imaginative games? Were you the sort of kid that like picks up sticks and plays pretend with friends?
Yeah. I love to. I would love to play pretend. I love to play charades specifically. I would force my cousins to. We would make plays and put them on for our parents and my aunties and uncles.
Yeah.
I did a lot of playing pretend my whole life. Yeah.
Nice. And did you ever have any introduction to more role-play game stuff, like any D&D or anything like D&D?
The first time I ever played D&D, I think I was 12, and my sister wanted to do, like, she was playing D&D and she wanted to try being a DM for once, so she DM'd for just me and my brother. But we didn't make it through like very long at all. Like, I think we only played like 20 minutes of it before she was getting annoyed at me because I didn't understand that there were rules and I wanted to be magic and I wanted to just do whatever I could. I was like, she was like,
like using druidcraft to make a water squirting flower to put out a forest fire, something like that.
Yeah, a little bit like that. Yeah.
Can relate. So that was like your only time venturing into rules-based TTRPG? Before the later stuff?
Yeah, I think mostly my experience with TTRPG roleplay sort of games has only been D&D.
What's your background in like wider world of like storytelling in general? Like, what got you into being an actor? How long have you been pursuing that?
So I always knew I wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
As a child, I just loved it so much, and it gave me a sense of relief, and I really enjoyed the escapism and whatnot. So when I left high school, I knew I either wanted to work with animals or I wanted to act. Nice. And at first I actually tried working with animals and I worked at a doggy daycare, but they were hurting the dogs.
Oh.
Yeah, it was horrible. I did a report and everything. So I was like, it actually really messed with my perception on, like now I don't know if I trust pet shops and like all of that. Vets and stuff is a bit different because, you know, they work so hard on it. So when kind of had that shattered for me, I was like, okay, I'm just going to go full hard into acting.
Mm-hmm.
So I quit that job and I just focused solely on acting, and I was fortunate enough to stumble across a modeling, online modeling thing, but they were also wanting people for actors. So I went to it and said like, hey,
Just my brain, when you were like modeling thing, but they were also, my brain finished the sentence with hurting dogs. And I was like, what?
Not everybody.
Yeah, they were also hurting dogs for some reason. They were finding dogs to model
Just
with
to hurt
just to hurt them. It's fucked up. Sorry, no, they were also a modeling agency that also represented actors.
Yeah, also represented actors.
Just good-looking actors.
Yeah, just good-looking actors. So, no. Anyway, so I didn't realize now, but that was actually pretty scammy. But obviously, luckily it worked out. But don't trust that. Just don't follow my footsteps.
There's some red flags potentially. It worked out okay, but that doesn't mean it's going to always work out okay. So you pursued that. Did you get work through them? Did you actually get acting work coming in?
Yeah, when I went in, I said to them that I was interested in acting only. I didn't really care about the modelling side. And so they were like, okay, we'll take some headshots of you and we'll reach out to agencies and see if they like the look of you from your headshots or whatnot. And then at the time I had 3 agencies come back to me saying that they were interested, and I chose one, which was my first agent, a Tauranga-based agency who actually got me the audition for Baelin's Route.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she got me quite a few auditions. And then as I was getting a bit more serious, I moved to a bigger Auckland agency.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. So how about from a more storytelling, writing perspective? You ever done anything writing or directing or like creating that side of things?
Yeah, I have. So I've deleted it now, which I probably shouldn't have, but I, when I first started deciding to pursue acting full on, I was like, I'm not going to wait for roles. I'll just make my own thing. And so I learned how to use a camera, how to edit, how to record sound and write. And I acted all 5 characters in this flat.
Okay.
I was playing like a flat skit sort of thing. But I wanted people to actually be interested in it, and I didn't want it to just be goofy stuff that kind of didn't have a narrative. So as I was consuming media, I was paying attention to what media I really enjoyed, and I really enjoyed Rick and Morty.
Okay.
And I just found it kept narratively pulling me back in. So I started to research the show creator Dan Harmon. He talks about writing quite a bit actually. And he talks about a circular story structure. It has 8 parts. Yeah. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. And that's kind of the way I base a lot of my writing off of.
Is that like the hero's journey sort of thing?
Yeah, exactly. The hero's journey. So
most of my D&D games are structured around hero's journey.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the character arc, and you can apply it to non-characters as well. You can kind of almost anthropomorphize the entire story as like a hero and what journey they're on. And
yeah, exactly. So I personally find that really fulfilling and really narratively satisfying.
And you can really tell that during this Tales of the Misfits. I talk about it a lot, about how I'm really proud of how you and I worked together on Sneaky's story, and the arc of and you coming to me being like, I think I'd like for me to descend further before we start to bring me back around again. This will be coming out long after it's been long after it's been released, and I don't know if they'll have gotten to the very end of it, but the part where you descend into your deepest parts definitely is aired by now, because you're just on the raft playing this necromancer flute to just make your dead sister's corpse dance for you. Is just that part in particular was holy shit, this lady needs help. And you were deliberately doing it so that it's hey, it's a more satisfying payoff when it comes back around and she's got that character arc development and growth and comes back out of that, and the things that happen at the end sort of really bookend that and go oh, look how far look at the change she's made. It became very apparent to me through Tales of the Misfits, holy shit, Phoenix is a good storyteller. She knows what it takes to make a good story happen in a satisfying way.
Yeah, thank you.
So you were doing that for a long time. When were you doing this sort of looking into Dan Harmon and that stuff? Was that before you were deeply involved in the Viva stuff?
Yeah, that was before the Viva stuff. Actually, when I got announced as Willow is when I deleted them.
Oh no, because
Yeah.
you're like, I can't be seeing,
Yeah.
people can't be seeing this
Which
anymore.
is so silly because in retrospect, like it could have been. It was kind of still in the world of what Viva does,
Yeah.
like the sort of the skits about these
Yeah,
characters and
yeah.
whatnot. And I realized because I deleted.
Are they gone
deleted
for
them.
good? Yeah, you've got rid
gone
of
for
all
good.
trace.
Which was so stupid. Or maybe I can. I know that there's like a rewind machine. Or something.
Yeah.
They talk about.
Yeah,
that
people
online.
say, oh, nothing's ever deleted fully. You can, if
Yeah.
you know what to look for in a hard drive, you can always find it.
Yeah.
You'd need some tech buffing to be able
Yeah.
to do it, and you need to pay them a lot of money to try and find it.
Yeah, exactly. So.
But it's all experience. Like it's still the
Yeah.
whole things you learned from going through it is still up there, even if it's not online anymore.
Yeah.
So around the time you got the Willow, so that was just through regular acting auditions,
Yep.
regular process of that.
Yep.
Do you remember what they were looking for? Do you remember what the character brief said or anything?
I know that they were kind of struggling with explaining what an NPC was because obviously, like if you aren't familiar with gaming or that sort of world, it is a little bit difficult to explain what a non-playable character is to someone that is completely foreign to.
Yeah.
And because at the time that Viva put out the audition, they didn't have anyone kind of associated with Viva that was sort of that kind of damsel princessy sort of role, which is the first time, or as they said to me, the first time that they needed to look outward for something like that. But I'd actually heard of Viva before. I had an actor friend show me some of their skits, and I was like, oh, this is funny. So when the audition came, I was like, oh, I know these guys.
I've heard of these guys.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I've heard of these guys. And also, like, I have played video games my whole life, so
Right.
I also like understood the
They didn't have as much work to try and explain to you what an NPC was. You're like, no, I get it. I get the premise of the whole thing. Don't worry about it. So how many auditions was it? What was the process like?
So at first they did a self-tape for the first round of auditioning, and then they did a callback in person for those that they liked the audition from. So yeah, I did my self-tape, and then I got told that I had a callback, and when I met them, like the first thing I said was like, "Oh hi, I play Skyrim," and they're like, "Oh cool." But
That's what secured the job.
Yeah, that was it.
That moment, they were like, perfect.
She's the one. Yeah, but they added another script for the callback, which was the "I dare not stray from the road" scene.
Yeah.
Where obviously I was repeating the same line, but needed to give it, an ebb and a flow for the scene to work. And then not long after that, my agent called me to say that I'd been offered the role.
Yeah. Nice. So it was just self-tape, callback, and then you got it.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. What was your first reaction? Was it like a?
Oh, I was so
Yeah,
excited.
stoked.
Yeah,
Nice.
and I called my friend who had shown me the Viva skin. I was like, guess what?
I'm working with her.
Yeah.
That's cool. How long ago was that now? It was like 6 years or something? Was it?
It was.
When was Baelin's Route?
Baelin's Route. We did the 2020 is when it was released.
24 years.
Yeah, 4 years.
Yeah, because it was after the D&D thing had started but not been released yet, I think. It was when we were filming it, but the pandemic was coming, I think. Yeah. So a few years now, but like still within more recent memory, I suppose. Yeah. What was your best and what was your highlights and lowlights of filming Baelin's Route?
Oh, the highlights were definitely going to Odaki National Park. Oh my God, phenomenal!
Pretty beautiful country we got, eh?
Yeah,
we got some nice sights around.
Yeah. Every time someone comes into stream, like, should I come to New Zealand? I'm like, yes.
Yes.
Like, if you like
Yes,
nature,
100%.
yes. So it's definitely a highlight. The low light, there wasn't really anything I didn't enjoy. The first thing that pops into mind is actually my last scene. So when I was wrapped, I cried. I cried a lot because I was like, I had so much fun. I don't want to go. But
it's something that you don't really. It's not one of the things they focus on in like drama school or whatever. But it's something that actors do have to be aware of. Is like once you come to the end of a shoot of a particular thing, it can be like really emotionally charged because you've gone through a lot more than you would have in the same amount of time in like an office job or something. You've gone through so much. You've emotionally gone through so much because you've put yourself into certain scenes and you're really investing in character and you're doing quite a lot of physical exertion of, especially on like shooting on sets and things. You're doing flying around, you're traveling, you're in cars for however much, you're going back and forth on set. Even if you're on set, you've got like a trailer where you're getting your costume and makeup and stuff, and then they travel you to set. It's just a physically exhausting process and a mentally exhausting process, and it's all like compressed into like such a short time as possible so that they can get their most for their money, and then it all comes to an end, and all at once you're going, everything that has been my 24/7 schedule for my life for the last 2 months or whatever, it's now just changed and gone, and I'm not seeing the same people every single day, and as an actor especially, you're like, I don't know when my next job's going to be, and so there's insecurity around that, and then there's this and that, and it's just, there's so much all happens at once. I feel like actors need to be reminded going into this industry, like you got to be aware of this sort of stuff. It can be a challenge in itself. So it was pretty emotional to end. Did you know what was happening next? Had the Viva guys said like, hey, we'll get you back for something soon, or like was anything in the works or the pipelines at that point?
No, there wasn't. I wasn't sure if I was going to walk away from it, and that would be the last time I would work with Viva. But I felt like I really connected with everyone, and that everybody became friends, whether or not I was going to continue working or not. And then just lucky that they keep getting us back to business.
They haven't worked out that I'm still here. Keep my head down. And what was the next thing they asked you to do?
I think the next thing right after that was the first Epic NPC Man skit that I did, which was the Death Knight and the Honeywood.
Oh,
which wasn't too far of a deviation.
Yeah, you can see where their leaping logic goes of like, who's right for this role. Yeah.
And then I think after that was D&D Logic.
D&D Logic, right? Because it was, I remember in D&D Logic season 1 I was show running, so I was involved in most of the processes, and including casting and things. And it was very important to me to try and get some diversity in the cast, and we auditioned so many people for all the main roles. And one of the problems I found was that I was like, I want to have like some dwarves and goblins and halflings and little folk, and so we started actually we auditioned people with dwarfism and such, and it was just like, I want to give people the opportunity, but I also need them to be good enough to hold I need them to be good enough to actually hold the role and to have the comedic timing that we need and things like that. And there was just nothing. There was just nothing coming in that was like making me go, yes, perfect. Similarly for the Goliath role, that was Emmett Skilton's role. I interviewed a couple of folk. I had this Samoan guy, I think he came in and he auditioned for the role, and I was like, he's good enough that I could probably coach out the performance that I want from him on the day. Like I could probably get what I wanted. And the very next audition after that was Emmett, and he just knocked it out of the park. Like absolutely gave me exactly what I'd written. Like the character that I'd made, and he had it down. He understood the timing and everything. I was like, if I was to not give him the role just because he's a white man, in the act of, oh well, I need diversity, so I need then that's tokenism. That's me pandering to, I need to give this guy who's got dark skin the role because he's got dark skin, and I don't think that's the way to have inclusion and diversity in a healthy way. And so I was like, I have to be true to like who's actually getting the job, and I do recognize that there's also like a bit of a vicious circle there of like, if the people who are not in a privileged position to happen to be born cis white het male, or whatever the majority happens to be, the people in power, the authority seems to be, if they're not privileged enough to be born there, then maybe they're not getting the roles, maybe they are getting unconscious bias selected against and all this, and so maybe they're not getting the experience to get better. So you kind of need to there is an element of, you do need to sort of massage a certain, like, you have to remind yourself to cast people that you wouldn't normally, but not in like main roles, not for like a comedy sketch series where I've got 10 episodes to try and convince the world and Viva that this is worth doing again for a season 2. It needs to be as good as it can be in every single episode to try and catch you into watching the next one, and to catch the YouTube algorithm into making it show you the next one when the next one is released and all this. But yeah, we did our best on diversity, and I remember asking the guys during that casting process, like, who else can we have that's like female presenting and such, and Yonim was one of the first ones in the hat, and I was like, oh, and she's teeny, so she can play and she can play a halfling. Yeah. That was a no-brainer as far as casting was concerned for that. And then, of course, the next part of that process was we're casting for D&D Logic. We've got our cast together. This whole series is about the ridiculousness of Dungeons and Dragons rules. I need to make sure that these guys at least know what we're parodying. Yeah. So I remember getting you and Emmett and I think Byron and a couple others maybe around to my house at the time and been like, let me run you through a very quick introduction to D&D. Yeah. And it became very quickly apparent to me, like, oh, this is the type of player she would be, because I think in the once we talked through character creation, we're like, you're playing a rogue, so I've made you a pre-made rogue character, and this is what your character sheet does, blah blah blah. Yeah. And then like I just improvised something. I put out a map, and I was like, let's say, for example, you're starting in a tavern. Here's your players. Here's some NPCs around the place, and I think you were the first person to speak. You were like, I shoot that guy. I was like, all right, we're setting a scene, and you're shooting a random stranger at the back. Cool, well, make me an attack roll a thing.
You said he looked creepy.
I said, yeah, there's a creepy dude at the bar, and you're like, I shoot him.
I'm like...
And then you rolled, and I think from memory you missed.
I missed,
and you hit the barrel beside him or something, and then the barrel started pissing ale on the floor. Yeah. And then Byron was like, I'm gonna go downstairs, and then he slipped on it and fell acrobatics check, and I was like, okay, these guys get D&D. they understand the basics of it. Yeah. I think I just used the opportunity to like walk through the sketches that I was preparing, and I was like, so there's going to be one that's revolving around stealth failing, so this is what's actually happening there. If you were to do this situation, you need to roll stealth for it, and the joke is going to be parodying this sort of thing, this mechanic or whatever. Yeah. So that was fun introduction. That was like the second time you'd ever played D&D after that first time with your sister? Yeah,
I think that was the second time ever. And then before we started Tales of Misfits, I played a few one-shots here and there with friends. But yeah, so I was still pretty fresh, and Tales of Misfits was my first like campaign. Yeah.
It was pretty exciting. I know that you got from the D&D Logic season 1. You were then got onto like the board stuff with Rowan's niece and all this, and then I think by the time Tales of the Misfits was in the works, after the studio Kickstarter had been finished, and one of the stretch goals was like an all-female campaign, we were then having discussions about, okay, which players should we have for this? And there was a list of names, 7 or 8 names, I think, and we were kind of talking through the pros and cons of whether we think they'd work together chemistry-wise, like on set. And I was like, I've never played with some of these people. I don't know for sure. Yeah. I was like, if we did go with some of these folk, I think having like an audition-like process of like have a couple of table sessions with different groups of them, see if they vibe, see if I can get some insight from a session 0 how they would play. If I can get insight from the first shot of just a random one-shot shooting a stranger, I'm like, yeah, I can certainly pick up on something from an entire session 0. Yeah. So the talk of that was in the works for a while. We were like, okay, we'll do like an audition-like process and eventually cast it. And then I think for budget reasons, or because like maybe time reasons or whatever, they were just like, we're just going to choose 4 and go with it and hope for the best. I was like, okay, not what we were discussing, but sure, let's go with that and hope that they work together. Yeah. And the 4 that ended up being Tales of the Misfit were chosen. I was like, if we're just going to have just 4 without an audition process, then I definitely need a solid session 0 with them. I need time to do a character creation session and then also a session 0, which are 2 different things. Because I need to go over like the rules of the game and the rules, not only the rules of the game, but my table rules. Like I won't allow this sort of thing at my table, and you know, this and this and this. Going over lines and veils, being like, is anybody averse to any particular topics? If anybody's got arachnophobia, make sure that I'm aware of that, so I don't throw giant spiders at you all of a sudden. All this stuff. So you can go over all that stuff, and then you run a session 0 to see like, let's get used to the game, the rules of the game. That was a fun process. Do you remember the session 0 and the hanky panky Yankee Doodle that was there? Do you remember what we did in the session 0?
I don't fully remember everything. I know I had come with 3 different character ideas.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And as people were fleshing out their characters is what helped me lean towards ending up going with sneaky.
Yeah, because it kind of fit a niche more than the others did.
Yeah.
Do you remember what your other ones were? There was a bard, wasn't there? I think.
Yes, I'm pretty sure there was a bard. I know I wanted to be a monk, a way of open hand.
Right.
I wanted her to be like a Southern belle. But then obviously with the
Horatio. Okay. Well, Hanky Panky came in at that point.
Panky, the original Horatio. I was like, oh, I'll put that one. That goes in the vault.
Yeah, she can be later.
Yeah. And I know I wanted to do, I think, another monk of the Way of Mercy. But she was kind of like known as a reaper, like not necessarily someone you would want to see.
Yeah. It's called Way of Mercy, but
but
you'd be lucky.
I ended up not going with her because I know Brett said that she wanted something a little bit more gritty.
Brood and dark, broody vampire sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so you're like a fairy, who like a rogue fairy, not like a pretty Tinkerbell, but like deliberately leaning into being like not the pretty one, like having other prettier fairies in your family, and people being used to fairies being super pretty and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think at first she was the bard I was going to have, and then I thought, no, I kind of want to deviate away from that.
I think it was a pixie bard at first, I think, and then you changed it to a rogue slightly later. But all I remember from that session 0 is that I was improvising the actual story after we'd decided on the characters and stuff, and I was like, okay, let me run you through something, see how you'd play it. And it was like a wedding that you ended up crashing a wedding. I think from memory I just offhanded said like, oh yeah, you're gathered in town for a celebration, like a wedding or something, and then that just became the whole thing. And there was like a gigantic Pegasus that was like trampling the cake by mistake and stuff. It was amazing. And then after that session we were like, cool, are we all locked in? And the guys were like, we've got logistics to think about. This is something we're actually going to have to shoot, and we've got to think about if you're playing, because the entire session 0 you were just tiny. I'd made you like a foot tall or whatever, and Hanky Panky was like, think of the biggest horse you ever seen and double it. Every time I asked them to describe themselves, their characters, Ree would be like, well, I extend my wings. I'd be like, how big are your wings? Think of the biggest wingspan you ever seen. Double it.
And then double it. The same with their abs.
Every single time. Strongest abs you've ever seen. Now double it. Everything about it was great. And I was like, to Rhea, I was like, are you aware that if you're playing like a proper Pegasus, you won't have opposable thumbs, you won't have a bag or equipment, you won't have a weapon, you'll just be you with horse hooves. And she was like, yeah, let's lean into it. I was like, okay, interesting. We can make it that you have like saddlebags that your pixie friend can like get things out of for you or something if needed. So we're kind of working out what the logistics were going to be in terms of the gameplay. Because you're not meant to be able to play anything smaller than small or larger than medium. But I was like, no, we'll have a tiny character and a large character, and we'll see how that works out. I was also, I was like, this means you're not going to be able to go up ladders or like into houses through small doors and stuff. And she's like, yeah, let's lean into it. But then the guys were like, well, you say that, but then you're adding all of the extra logistics of like forced perspective that they did in Lord of the Rings, of like Gandalf and the Hobbits trying to like film them close but look like they're talking to each other, and creating 2 different sized props for you and for the others, and all of this stuff. And they were like, we kind of need them to be size category small at the smallest and medium at the largest, and so let's veto the Pegasus and make the pixie small. And I was like, all right, but I am going to allow the pixie to turn tiny. So I was like, that's where that came from, of me going, you can be size category small or tiny at will. And then we can always say, oh yeah, you just happen to be small in the green screen. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Sneaky just wants to take up more of the camera space.
Yeah, exactly. But we know you're actually a foot tall and nipping through padlocks or whatever you happen to be doing. And then we launched into Tales of the Misfits. What was the start of that process like for you?
Well, making Sneaky's backstory I actually found really easy because, again, of my own kind of knowledge of writing and story structure and the hero's journey. But also, like, you'll understand being an actor as well, and any actors watching, you always like yearn for a kind of like meaty role that lets you have a bit of what's the word, like
story,
story.
something,
Just
a bit of something, a bit of something to your character, a bit of dimension.
Yeah, a bit
of depth.
Yeah, exactly, depth. So, as soon as I could, I was like, oh, I want her to seem like portray or at face level just seem like this chaotic little chaos gremlin, but actually have like a really deep rooted trauma and this stuff that she needs to like make her way through and get over, like that complete story. So I actually found it really easy to I whipped it out so fast. I don't know, but I'm going to assume I was the fastest to get back to you.
I think you were. From memory, I'd have to go back and check, but I'm pretty sure you got back to me before anybody. I think Britt would have probably been a close second.
Yeah.
Because she already knew that she wanted to be. She'd had vampire in mind for the longest time. She wanted to be a vampire for all sorts of things before this, and it was the perfect opportunity to be like, I want to play a vampire. I was like, cool, I'll make it work. So she already had backstory pretty well established for herself, but I think she just didn't get it back to me as quickly as you did. But people often say, because I do my behind the screen streams where I do a watch party of the latest episodes as they come out, and I talk about things and I pause it and talk about like. What could have happened differently, or where did this idea come from, and blah, blah, blah. And quite often in that, people are asking me, like, where did all this backstory come out? All this stuff about Sneaky's sister, like, is that something you came up with, or did she come up with it? And I was like, let me read you. And I'll bring up the document that I've got, and I'm like, backstory, and I'll read what you've written. And I was like, she came up with all of this and gave it to me. I just named some of the characters in her backstory, and then wrote the like, flashback scenes so that I can force you into that backstory that you've written and actually get you to play out some things as it happens.
Yeah, that was so fantastic. I knew when you were doing those moments, I was like, oh,
here it is.
Time.
Oh God, here we go. Here's my moment to show all of the stuff that I've written.
Here's my trauma.
So did you have that just in ready to go, or did you just start writing it and it just flew out of you?
I just started writing and it flew out of me, but a lot of what, so a particular acting technique that I really like is the Ivana Chubbuck technique, where it's substitution. And so I find for me, like, I've once played a role where I'd have my like child die, but I've never been pregnant, and I've never had a child, and I've never had, well, I have now, but at the time I didn't even have like a pet pass away.
Right.
But I understood the feeling of grief, and I understood.
Speaking of pet, here's the Viva pet. Hey, Sunny. Hey, Sunny, sweetie.
Hi, okay.
You're going to be okay with getting picked up? Because I think people on camera would love to see you.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay with getting picked up? You usually are. Hi, sweetie.
Hey, gorgeous.
Here we go, look.
Hi.
The Viva Studio pet.
Oh, my God,
You're such a cutie.
Hi, baby girl.
You know, on YouTube, when you can go into this like scrubbing bar and there's like a most watched.
Replayed,
yeah, most replayed. Yeah, we'll see.
It'll definitely be a spot. Hi, precious. I love you. I say that to you, Cricket.
I should ask your mama whether she's okay with you being on camera.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go, sweetie. There you go, sweetie. There you go.
Hi, Cindy.
Yeah, so you were drawing on just grief of some other kind. You know what the feeling of grief is. You can apply it to whatever the trigger happens to be.
And so for me in particular, I actually have a really terrible relationship with my sister, which is really unfortunate, and that's
because of that bad D&D game.
Yeah, that bad D&D game.
It's all because of that.
Yeah, it's 'cause of that.
She wouldn't let you do whatever you wanted to.
She disowned me after that. So I mostly in a lot of my characters, even in audition processes, to kind of give me like a little bit more depth, because you just get like a script and like a little bit of a thing, and you're left to kind of fill in a lot of the blanks. I often find for me, and I draw out the best performances if I can kind of rewrite a story of my own life. It gives me a lot of stakes and an objective in what I'm creating. Yeah. So I knew that I wanted to have a relationship where I could rewrite it and have a wonderful relationship with a sister. And then, because as relationships fall apart with everybody, you sort of have feelings of guilt and grief and like, what could I have done better? And, sometimes you can't do anything better. But that was what I was really playing on in the moment of Sneaky feeling responsible for the death of her sister. So I didn't realize that would be what came out, but it was just kind of, it's bubbling under the surface. And I was like, oh, here you go.
Go on this would be an interesting thing to explore at some point.
Yeah.
Did you know while writing it that I was going to utilize it to the extent that I did?
No.
Were you writing it with the expectation that we might never see or get to any of this?
Yeah. Because I wasn't too like, again, that was my first campaign, so I wasn't too familiar. Like, how you did it was perfect and everything I wanted.
Thank you.
So I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
That's how I roll. Like I feel like I'm a very creative guy, but my creative muse comes from inspiration from somebody else's like backstories and stuff. Like if you told me to just sit down and write a module apropos of nothing with no characters in it and be like, you're going to run a module for some people, I could do it, but I don't feel like I would enjoy it or be as invested in it as I would if like I go, here's the setting that we're going to be in. It's the setting of Azurim. You're playing this sort of a character. You're all like outcasts or whatever. And then you give me the characters. You give me your backstories. You decide you're a vampire. You decide that your sister's dead and you're a phantom rogue. And you mentioned in it that like your driving force is like trying to work out how to bring her back. Yeah. And I was like, well, there's topics of necromancy there. Yeah. She's got topic of necromancy because she's an undead. And then there was her ratios from a fighting ring, and I was like, there's not a direct link to necromancy, but a fighting ring would end up with lots of dead gladiators. Yeah. So what do they do with that? I can tie that into they're selling those to a necromantic horde. Bublay's like got this whole thing that she sent me about like her fire genie patron, and she specified in her backstory like the war gong, I want it to be special to my patron, but I don't want to know who it is. Like I want you to decide and tell me in the campaign, like allow me to discover in character who that genie is related to me. Maybe it's my brother or an uncle or whatever. Yeah. And so she gave me that, and I was like, how do I tie that in? Okay, maybe he's doing something. He's like using some magic that ties into why, because then the mechanics of the D&D come in and like, how does a necromancer actually raise an entire army of undead? Because the spells in the game only allow you to control 2 undead at a time or 3 undead at a time. And I'm like, he needs something mechanically to amplify that and extend his control of undead to more than the spells allow. So maybe the genie is the thing that's giving him those things. And what do I call it? I don't know, ember shards. And so from that, my story comes together from your backstories. And that's how I work with the guys campaign. We needed Adam wanted to play Barad-dûn, the High Sorcerer, the most powerful character in the entire game, and we wanted Alan playing Greg, who's a level 0 garlic farmer. I was like, how do I link those up to start at the same level? I need some inciting event to sap him of all his power, and then his journey can be to get it back. Who's going to sap him of his power? Somebody who's jealous of him. And the stories always come together for me. The stories always come together from looking at their backstories and piecing things together.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's like you get all the pieces and you together make them.
And I'm like, oh, I can see a story through this. And who would that indicate is going to be the big bad evil guy? Oh, the person who turned her into an undead. The person who's the necromancer of the entire army, probably. But like his right hand is the guy who's actually turned her and stuff. It's so in my games, I love that backstory. When you sent that through, and I was like, I saw that passion in you of like wanting to be engaged in the character and thinking about it outside of the game. And I was like, this is refreshing, because normally I have to drag them kicking and screaming into remembering that D&D exists before a session. And I'm like, hey Rowan, can you check your character please? Hey Alan, can you remember you've leveled up this session, so you're going to have access to these spells? And, hey Ben, I know you have complete amnesia whenever we play for some reason. Every time we start a table session, Ben's like, I got no recollection of ever being here before. I don't know what we're doing.
Oh, is that why Ben was the furbog?
That is part of it. I made Ben the guy who's always like, where are we? What are we doing? The guy who's taking no notes. It was very funny. But yeah, it was a change with the Misfits campaign. I was like, oh, I've got players who are invested in like thinking about D&D and their characters and already planning their character arc out. Adam did that wonderfully in the Azurim campaign. He came to me basically early days and went, I think at level 2 I'm taking this, level 3 I'm taking this, and he worked his way out up to level 20. He goes, if we get to level 20, I want this kind of thing. And of course that changes over time as his character develops, as the story develops. He's like, actually I'm going to take this instead. But he's obviously thought ahead in your character, and to see that coming through immediately when I was like, can you get me your backstories? And like immediately, I was like, oh sweet, I've got a character who I can really invest in. Yeah, it was fantastic. So we started Tales of the Misfits. We started filming. How long ago did we actually start filming it? It'd be well over a year now, right? It was
I think it was either. I'm pretty sure.
I think it was about a year. Yeah, I think it was end of last year.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting to think.
Yeah.
The whole thing's So we had the session 0, and then I think we had the session 0 in November. I think we filmed the first 2 sessions in December, pretty much back to back. And then we had a big break over Christmas and stuff, and didn't film again until like March or something. Because I remember the 3rd session was a bit of a slog. Like that one was, we came back and had the skeleton giant bug, and you guys were just like, I don't fully remember what we were doing, and I don't know why we've got a skeleton, and I guess we're fighting it, but maybe we're running away, and I wasn't doing a good enough job of like just giving you a direction and saying, you guys should run away, or you guys should work together to take him out. I was kind of just leaving it to you as an open game, being like, you make the decisions, you do what you want to do. Yeah, but it did leave you with this kind of like, I don't know what to do.
It was really interesting to have such a big break between, and I think about that, how people who genuinely play D&D, sometimes it takes so long to get people together, and I'm like, Jesus, how do you remember?
How do you remember?
Yeah, how do you remember? Like,
take good notes.
Yeah.
Or if nobody at the table has taken notes, including the DM, then so what? I guess it got forgotten, but nobody's watching this. For most games, for the vast majority of people who play D&D in the world, they're doing so not in front of a camera and an audience. They're just doing so for themselves. And if everybody has forgotten the detail, start again. Like refresh that guy's name because you don't remember it.
Yeah. I'd also never done a chase sequence before, which was really cool. And like, sorry to the team because I had wings, so I was fine.
See ya.
Bye, and I'm a rogue, so I can dash out of here.
yeah, double dashing. That's always the fun thing. People often say like, how do you balance having someone who can fly in the party? I'm like, it balances itself, because if it's a party if they're a player who understands that this is a team game, then they are going to be left with the moral dilemma of, I can escape, but my party isn't going to. Like, not all of us have wings. Not all of us are able to double dash, so what can I do to help my party escape? So I'm like, it doesn't need that much extra thought or balance to have a player with wings, unless your entire party has wings, at which point, so do the monsters. Like at which point, hit them with harpies and griffins and dragons and other things that can fly, or things that have ranged attacks. It's not as big of an issue as I think a lot of people make it out to be. So what was so while we were doing Tales of Misfit, was your D&D hook had well and truly stuck in?
Yeah, as we were going through, I became like bloody obsessed.
What did you start doing, exploring outside of Viva D&D?
So my friends and I started playing. Oh well, they actually had. Well, they became my friends during the process, and they had a home campaign, so I joined in on that, and I was just falling in love with D&D as a whole, and like since I was playing with my friends, I was like, oh my gosh, why don't we do like a live stream? Like, why don't we kind of put our own content out there? Since we all enjoy D&D so much, so we did a live stream. Which was really cool over on my streaming channel, and then now
channel, which is
the Phoenix Cross. Phoenix is spelled Phoenix. I have to say that because the amount of people who think they can spell Phoenix and they cannot. Phoe, okay, OE.
It's FEFE Cross. Fifi Cross. The Phoenix Cross over on Twitch. And we have just recently decided that we'll continue doing it, but we're going to do pre-recorded now because I'm not a very good streamer. I'm not good. You're giving yourself extra work doing it live because you also now have to have a tech person that's like controlling the stream and actually paying attention to the chat and realizing, crap, we've not recorded this. You can't at any point just pause and be like, let's take a break, or let's reshoot that bit because we lost the audio for it. And
exactly. So we've decided to do that, and we have named our channel One Hit Wonders, with one being spelled WON.
Nice.
Because we first made a joke with that first stream about winning D&D, but you can't like win D&D, so
not with that attitude.
Yeah, not with that attitude. So One Hit Wonders on Twitch and YouTube and Instagram and TikTok.
Cool. Is that first campaign being uploaded to One Hit Wonders as like a VOD, or is it like a?
That one's actually already on YouTube, uploaded as the long stream. But the next ones that we'll be doing, we'll be releasing them in episodes.
Yeah.
So it's just not so much of a long sit through of content.
Yeah, because that's another thing with actual play. Any sort of D&D actual play is like the onboarding process of going like, how much do I have to get through to catch up with the campaign? Because not everybody finds it when it's starting.
Yeah.
Some people find it 3 weeks in, 10 weeks in, and you go, oh man, there's 10 weeks of content to understand what's going on in the story. So you always need to have in mind when you're starting an actual play, you go like, okay, how do we recap the story? Do we summarize it at the start of every session, everything that's happened so far? Do we put out 5-minute videos every so often that's like a summary of the previous week's video? Do we put like a half-hour video out every month to be like, this is the story in the last month? What are you doing to try and make it easier engagement for your audience to like get on board with the story so far?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's something you need to always answer for yourself, and like how that fits in with your style of content. For us, it wasn't as much of an issue because we were doing half-hour content, so it was easy enough to keep up with. But then after we'd done hundreds of episodes, it's like that's still dozens of hours of content. And so towards the end of this Adventures of Azarin campaign, we're expecting to get about 250 episodes or so. Wow. So that'll be about over 120 hours of content.
Yeah, crazy.
So yeah, we need. That's why I wrote and filmed the recap episodes where I was a bartender and like recapping the story so far and stuff.
That's brilliant.
Just because I said to the guys, we're getting to a point where we need onboarding, because otherwise anybody, like, we're pushing to get more people to the channel. Yeah. But if they come to the channel and go, I don't have the time to watch that, then we've lost them. Yeah,
exactly. That's so interesting, because for me, maybe this is a bit naughty to say, maybe I'll beg you to edit it out later, but obviously when I was first asked about doing the Tales of the Misfits campaign, I was like, oh, I'll watch through more of the guys' content to get a better understanding of how it'll go. But yeah, I didn't make it all the way through. So much to watch.
It's a lot. We just filmed the penultimate episode yesterday.
Cool.
The penultimate table session, and I had a lot of pressure on myself to be like, mostly just self-imposed pressure of being like, I gotta get everything. I've got to make sure that I tie in all these things that I've been leading up to. I can't let it flop. I've watched so much stuff over my life, like Lost and Game of Thrones and Dexter and things, where it's just like they just fall flat at the last hurdle. And it's one of my nightmares as a storyteller that people will come away from my stories being like, kind of wasted the ending there, or they didn't pay this thing off that they said they were going to, or he alluded to like setting this thing up and it never paid off. And so I've been going through the campaign myself, rewatching it all. I'm watching the supercuts so that I can cut out the next time on previously on. And I'm watching it on double time speed, and I've got it on in the background, and I still am only like 12 table sessions in. Like, it's like halfway in. I'm like, God, it's so much content. So we've got so much happened in this campaign. I'm taking notes, being like, okay, I've got that in my notes already. Oh, I should go into more detail about that character because I kind of left him open-ended. Yeah, I'll take that down. I'm taking notes of the whole thing as part of my prep, and it's like, God, there's so much we've got through. So we've done so much content.
Even me watching back the Tales of the Misfits, in one of the first sessions we did, I like found a locket, and then I never did anything with it. Like, and I was like, I totally forgot I had that. Like,
Oh well, it happens. One of the things I want to do in my finale session next week, if I can find the time, is like during like the epilogue wrap up moments. I want to just make a point of all of the things on their character sheets that they've never used.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Be like, you remember I gave you this thing in episode 20 and I gave you this thing in episode 71. You never used this. You went out of your way to roll a whole check to steal this thing from that guy, and you never used it.
Oh, that's so funny.
I want to make a point of like calling back to all these things.
I gotta say, I was so glad that you forgot about the blood.
I did forget. Like, it was. That's probably a thing that I'm not sure if we end up releasing this before the end of the Tales of the Misfits, we'll probably bleep or redact this. I'll put it up on my Patreon for exclusives later. But yeah, towards the end, the Truckel had taken all your blood. He'd managed to get blood from each of you, and the idea was that in the final fight, if I needed it, like, he was going to bring out the 4 tablecloths. And everyone, as a vampire, he has abilities to like charm you and force you to do things. And he was going to impose disadvantage on your wisdom saves against that because he has control over you. Like, he has your blood, so you're less likely to resist his charming and stuff like that. So it was basically, it wasn't going to be a huge thing. It was just going to give him an added extra little power in that final fight if I needed it. And then in the final fight, not only did I forget, but also even if I'd have remembered, I probably would have made a point of it and then like had him drop it or something, because the fight was already balanced enough that I didn't need to give him any extra power, because it would have unbalanced the scales a little. But yeah, well, it wasn't going to be a major thing. It was just going to be like you have disadvantage on the check because he's got your blood.
That's so good to know now, because I was literally like
freaking out about the whole thing.
Time. I was like, here's my blood. Here's my blood.
There's some things that I put in there as like I don't know what I'm going to do with this later, but I've got it for later. Like in the guys' campaign, they all willingly gave their names to an archfey. And in my consequences section of my document, I've just got a section called Things to Remember or Consequences. And it is the guys all willingly give the name to an archfey. And I was like, I've got no plans to do anything with that, because the archfey they gave them to is a friendly archfey, and she's not like very malicious, at least not to these guys. And so she doesn't have malicious intent. But I do have that as a tool to call on if I need to. If they ever did anything to piss off that NPC, she can be like, okay.
I'm taking DM notes, by the way. Internally.
Yeah, you can take those little things down to be like, I'll use this later if I need it, and if I don't need to use it. And the blood was kind of one of those things. So you started your one-hit wonders with your friends. You said that they became your friends as you were doing it. So how did they get involved with you in D&D in the first place? So, like if they weren't already in your friend circle.
Oh, so I had one mutual friend with them, but I didn't actually know that they'd play D&D. And so one time when I was just hanging out, he mentioned that they were doing D&D, and I was like, oh, okay. And they're like, oh, they'll come around here if we want, and you can join on in. So I made like one of those quick characters, and no one had a healer, so I was playing Russian healer.
Russian killer.
Yeah, and she was just very scary and not like a woman of few words, and you would not think she's a healer.
Very intimidating.
Yes,
But I have a heart of gold.
Yeah.
You have a boo-boo.
That's exactly the vibe. So, yeah.
And you and through that they were like, let's stream. You said let's stream it, and then became friends with them through the process, and then decided let's carry this on into carry this on to a YouTube channel, but like pre-record it. So what's your intention from that? You're still gonna be a player, not DM?
Yeah, I'm still gonna be a player, but I was thinking like I want to get into DMing, and I've already been thinking like one-shot ideas and all that sort of stuff. One of my friends who has more experience DMing is going to be the DM for our main campaign. But I thought if we do like a Patreon or something called a Ko-fi Ko-fi, that we could maybe do like one-off, like one-shots and stuff, and have them as Ko-fi or Patreon exclusive things.
Yeah.
And I want to do, I don't fully know the mechanics yet, but just the tagline idea is I wanted to do sort of a one-shot where it's in the Greek like pantheon, where I can call upon all of my knowledge about different Greek gods, and
Sounds good.
Yeah, it'll be lots of fun, hopefully.
That sounds great, and it's funny actually you mentioned that, because this morning I was filming another short rest with Tom. I'm not sure if this is coming out before or after the one with Tom, but he also, during that conversation, he mentioned how into the Greek gods and the Greek pantheon he was, and we talked about, riffed on that for a bit. And the previous short rest I filmed in the tavern with Britt, also we ended up talking about the Greek gods a lot, so it just happens to keep coming up. The Greek pantheon's just got a lot of it's a very fertile ground for storytelling, and there's all sorts of interesting characters, and you can keep deep diving deeper and deeper into Greek mythology, because the pantheon is so wide. You've got the Olympians that everybody knows, but then you've also got like the lesser gods and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a goddess called Nyx, who's the goddess of night.
Yeah, the night one.
You're my favourite.
There's also got a goddess called Fifi, who's just Fifi, god of dogs.
Yeah. Well, it's not too bad actually.
It's not so bad. Not so bad.
I'll warm up if I could be the god of dogs.
So you want to run something that's Greek pantheon inspired as a DM? That would be pretty cool. Yeah. Are you thinking you are in Olympus? You're all playing gods, or you're all playing mortals and
so I was thinking it could
worshipping the gods
be cool, but because I'm not familiar with DMing yet, I'm not sure if the ideas I'm saying are viable, but I wanted to kind of like, I would make the characters for each of the gods, and we'd draw from a hat, and then whoever, like, they would have to play as that god and get familiar.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wanted all of them to traverse the underworld, and they needed to find something, and whoever was the first to find was going to be like the ultimate god.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. That sounds fun.
But
Yeah.
I'm not sure how exactly it would go, because obviously.
So like the gods would be the different classes of the things. Like Ares might be a barbarian or a fighter or something. Yeah,
exactly. So.
That sounds fun. I want to play in that. I've got idea. I'm like, oh, that'd be cool. I want to play a god.
Cool.
There's also it also doesn't have to be D&D. Like there's a really good game that friends of mine have created. A company called formerly Feral Games. They created a TTRPG called The Crowned, which is specifically about playing gods. It's a system that is designed around like. You can, instead of having like, here's a bunch of spell lists and you can be like, I guess that one suits Ares and I guess this one suits whoever, Athena. Instead it's like, no, you've kind of got like the recipe for how to create your spells. But you just kind of, you can do anything that's within your purview. Part of character creation of The Crown is you choose what your purview is. So you might be the god of volcanoes, or you might be the god of bubblegum. And like it's balanced in such a way that everybody at the table is equally powerful because you all have access to the same ether pool or god juice essentially. And so you have like 50 points of your god juice per divinity, your level. And you can use that to power your spells and your abilities. So you might be able to, God of Bubblegum, for instance, you might be like, you're limited in only your creativity. So you go, okay, we're in a fight. I'm gonna just summon like I'm gonna make the ground beneath him like sticky goo that keeps him in place. Or we need to get up onto the top of that. That's why they call him the Watcher, because he's always watching. We need to get up there, so I'm going to use some of my god juice to like summon a big bubble around us, and then it floats us all up to where we're gonna go. Or like we need to warn somebody, so I'm gonna make a big bubble and then pop, and it makes a big popping boom. So it's all your creativity of like how you go with it. You might for one of the games that I've played with them, I was the god of questions, and I was like, and you can decide on your character creation like whether you were you just kind of born as a god, or were you a mortal that kind of became a god, and who were you before you were a god? And for the god of questions, I was a kindergarten teacher because of all the questions that kids ask. But why? Yeah, but why though? And what's this? And why does this do this work like this? And so she became the god of questions, and I gave myself the challenge of only ever role playing in question form. So like everything she said was a question, and she had abilities that's like. Why don't you tell me about yourself? And like, I would spend some of my god points to make somebody like monologue about themselves, and that would reveal something they didn't want me to know. But like expositions, it's a really narrative. I would not recommend somebody who's never run role-playing games before to just start with it, because you'd be kind of on the back foot when your players start to go, ooh, here's this creative idea. You'd be like, I don't know how to balance this, and so you'd end up favouring people who are creative, and like the people who aren't as imaginative would kind of feel like they were less powerful in the game, because your power is based on what you can persuade the DM to let you get away with, essentially. And there's things in there that's designed to balance it, but you say, here's what I want to do, and the DM goes, okay, well, how damaging is it on a scale of 1 to 10? I'll say it's a 2 damage that you're wanting to do. What duration do you need it to be? It's an instantaneous thing, so we're not going to need any duration on this. Distance, you're trying to damage somebody that's a mile away, so that's going to be like a 6 6 out of 10 in the distance chart. You go through all these different, like 8 different things that it could be. What are some of the other ones? I can't remember now. There's distance, duration, damage. I can't remember what the other ones are off the top of my head, but you go through each of them and you go, okay, so all in all, you're going to have 20 points to spend. You do some extra maths on it and you go, okay, this is going to cost you 35 of your 50 ether points. And you're like, okay, well, it's draining me of my god juice quite a bit, but it is going to be quite a powerful thing. We'll do this thing. Whereas some other stuff that's just like minor things, I conjure some bubble gum to shut that guy up. I cast silence on him by like... Now he's got a big water, and it's like, that's not going to do much. No damage. He's pretty close to you, so only 1 in distance. You go through the things, and it's like, oh, that's only going to cost you like 2 points to do. So you can do like minor things for cheap because you're a god and you should be able to get away with it. But like big damaging things, you could like max out a 10 in a couple of them and be like, yeah, I've got enough to do it, but only once, and then I'm pretty drained for the day. It's a very balancing game. So if you were going to do that that Greek one-shot, that's also a system you can use. One of the best things about role-playing games in general is you don't need, it's not only Dungeons & Dragons. You don't need to stick with that system. You can find one that works for you and the story that you want to tell.
Because our name at first was I Won D&D, but I said to them, like, down the line, I don't want to be tied to just D&D. I would love for us to explore lots of tabletop RPGs and also just lots of board games in general. Like, again, that childhood love, like, coming out. So, that's fantastic. That is...
Hell yeah.
That's definitely coming up in my future.
I mean, yeah, I've got a. They gave me a copy of it, obviously, because friends of mine I was helping them out with the whole Kickstarter process and everything. And so you can borrow the rules for it as and when you're ready to actually start putting that into practice.
Thank you so much.
But yeah, I would recommend, because of just the nature of the game, get some experience under your belt with like just running a game or two of like Dungeons and Dragons and things, just to sort of get more familiar with the tension that can come from being on that side of things and be like, oh, is this something that can I thrive on this side of the DM screen? And then once you're more comfortable in that role, start branching out and trying other TTRPGs like The Crown and things.
That's amazing advice, thank you. And I'd love to DM for you sometime.
Hell yeah.
That'd be so
Let's
cool.
do it. Let's make it work.
I'll get some experience.
I'm always happy to be a player in brand new DM's games as well, because I'm happy to be there as a draw. I can be like, do you want me to? I usually ask whenever I'm a player, because I'm so experienced as a dungeon master. I usually ask, like, just FYI, before we go into it, as part of like the session 0, I'll say, like, if you get something wrong, do you want me to point that out, or do you want me to just let it go? Like, do you want me to tell you in the moment? Do you want me to tell you afterwards? Do you want me to only tell you if you specifically ask me? Do you want me to just kind of slyly put my head to, like, give you a signal that like that's not quite right, so that you can save face? How do you want to do this sort of thing? Because if you want it to be like, I'm not focused on the rules, I don't want you to sort of remind me when I'm getting things wrong, then I'm like, okay, cool. I'll notice when you do something and I'll be like, that's not how the rules work, but I'm happy to be like, that's how the rules work at this table. I'm happy with that. That's a house rule we're going with, I guess. I always like when somebody goes, when somebody is okay with me challenging them on a rule and then making the decision, okay, yes, I didn't mean to get that wrong, thanks for correcting me, or I know that's wrong, but I'm making the choice to. I don't like that rule, and I'm gonna. As long as I know that the rule was kind of ignored or broken on purpose, like a conscious decision, then I'm happy with letting that slide. I don't want people to just do it wrong because they didn't know better. So.
Okay, brilliant.
So I'm not. I know I could be intimidating to have as a player at a table, especially for a brand new DM. But I'm happy to be there if you do need more confidence in being like, I don't know the rules, but I'm going to give it a go, and I know that I've got a backup of if I don't know the rules, somebody goes, hey, can I do this, this, and this? What would I roll have to do this? You can turn to me and go, Rob, what do they have to roll for this?
Okay, cool. I would love that. I am more the type of person who would be like, just tell me.
Tell me. Is that right?
Is that right? I'll be like, do this big expression of stuff and then be like, right, Rob?
Absolutely. It sounds cool to me.
Cool. Okay, I love that. Yeah.
Cool. So what's your what else for one hit wonders? Yes. Mm-hmm. What else is on the horizons? Have you started actually recording those pre-records? Are you scheduling them? Starting them in January.
So we're doing a session 0, which I learned from you.
Nice. Yes.
Doing
always
a
wise.
0 first in January, and then hopefully in late January, depending on how our DM might need to adjust to things, we'll film our first session. But I have. I don't know if I even shared, but in the first half of this year, I went and did a business course.
Okay,
and
cool.
So I've gotten a better understanding sort of in how business runs, and I've made been focusing on the marketing and doing like content pillars.
Nice.
And like a posting schedule, and I'm learning how to TikTok. I'm learning like how to bring attention, because like obviously some audience will come over from being a part of Viva, but I don't want to just I don't want to steal Viva audience, or not really. That's the thing. People can watch multiple things, but learning kind of how to take those steps on my own, and it's been really wonderful to like have you to chat to and have the guys chat to and kind of see the way that world operates. So I'm learning a lot and trying a lot in terms of kind of making my own steps in that way. Although I know I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, and it's scary to make mistakes publicly, but mistakes are allowed. They're allowed. Yeah.
Mistakes are not allowed; they're necessary. You can't learn without learning why that didn't work.
Yeah.
And going, what did I do? I'll do that differently next time. Or why does it keep happening wrong the same time? And then looking at it and going, there's a through line. I keep doing this every time. That's probably why it's not working.
Yeah.
Mistakes are important. Mistakes are necessary, and that's all part of the process, isn't it? So you've just got the one. You're just going to focus on like one campaign at a time with One Hit Wonders.
Yeah. So first, we're just focusing on this campaign, and I'm focusing. So I'm kind of doing two things. I'm thankful I'm not the DM straight off the bat. I'm worrying obviously about my character and the storyline and all of that. And I've already got my character picked out immediately, my backstory already written out. And again, it's like sort of a way to process some things going on for me in my own life. But then,
D&D's therapy, baby.
D&D's therapy. But then, it's been so much of just, like scheduling meetings with people and like checking on the deadlines and like sitting with people like, hey, can you get your character sheet done by this amount of time?
It's good that you're taking that business approach with it, because I think a lot of actual plays fail in the early days because they think, we're having fun at the table. People will enjoy watching it. It's a different beast. You gotta if you're doing it as a production, like infuriatingly, some of the people I have interviewed for my short rest series, like Legends of Avantris and like Blackwater Gaming, some big name actual plays. They are the exception to the rule, where they did happen to just be like, we're on Zoom doing the thing anyway, and we just pressed go live, and it was like, that's such bad advice for everybody else though. That's you're the exception. It doesn't work out like that for most people. For most people, you gotta treat it like a business from the beginning. You gotta think like, hey, this is a thing that I need you to commit to. Your players, you need to tell them like, let's sign contracts to say that we're going to be doing this thing, and you need to talk about money early on, because you're like, we're not going to be earning any money. What if you do? What if it suddenly goes viral and suddenly you're starting to get a lot of ad revenue and whatever? Like you need to think about those things before money gets involved, so that it doesn't become a problem later. You need to approach it like a business. So it's very good that you're doing it that way. It's very good to hear.
Organising meetings, and again, already spoken about finances and how it will go, especially because I want to approach it with, like we're doing this pretty minimal budget, and it's mostly like my personal money that I'm putting into it. But even with, I'm thinking of a whole beast of Ko-fi. I said coffee for ages, and then someone told me it was different.
Whatever it is, because I thought it was coffee, because it was like, you're giving me money for a coffee. It's kind of the idea, and I think the creator said that it was coffee, but it's one of those GIF things. Who the fuck cares?
Okay, cool.
Languages are fluid.
Yeah, it's made up.
Call it what you want.
Words are made up. So, and thinking about from that aspect of pulling people in to support it and watch it grow, because unfortunately,
I think it's Ko-fi actually. I think it was intended originally to be like a play on lo-fi, because it was hi-fi, and then lo-fi was a play on that, and then Ko-fi, I think, it's just something in my brain was like, hey,
lo-fi,
hey, you heard this fact at one point. I think that might be right.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
So that's been a really interesting approach. Like another idea I wanted to do is, even if we're probably likely going to use Ko-fi. Just because there's better incentives for creators than Patreon, but I still wanted to do maybe like a thing where we did a one shot where we're all warlocks and specific patrons are our patrons.
Right.
Yeah.
That's very clever.
Yeah.
Different patron tiers. The patron tier is patron.
Yeah.
If you want the patron tier of the Patreon.
Yeah, exactly. So
you can become one of the warlock patrons in the game. That's very clever.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's also a risk of like you're putting yourself in the hands of who the hell knows what.
Yeah, we'll have to state that it ends up being at like some discretion.
Yeah, like everything on my Twitch channel, for instance, is like you can redeem your channel points to add this thing to my game, or you can come up with an idea for a new magic item or whatever, and I always make sure to be like at the discretion of me. I have complete veto rights at the end of the day. Like I'm still putting in my game. If you try and be like, oh well, I did this and I redeemed these many channel points, so that means you have to put. No, I'm not going to ruin my game or my story just because you're wanting to troll me. No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, in the end get final say.
How many players for this this upcoming game then?
So we have 4 of us, 4 players, and then our DM.
4 players and a DM. It's a good number for an actual play. People, it's small enough that everybody gets like enough time to shine within like a half hour or shorter episodes, while still being enough players that you've got somebody to bounce off of. And
Yeah, exactly. So we were having discussions about it and thought 4 players is a pretty good sweet spot. So yeah.
Cool. And the DM for that is the same one that did the
No.
usual one?
No. So unfortunately he said this from the very get-go that he couldn't commit to DMing a campaign, with just everything that he's got going on. So we have another friend who, quite a few of them actually have all had experience
that's good.
DMing. And this, Bron is his name. Oh, he's actually my flatmate. He in particular has already for a long time been working on his own world and was really interested in the whole world building and whatnot. So he showed me like what he had going on. I was like, oh wow, if you want to, and he was like, I do want to. That's what I'm showing you.
Yes. Yes. You have picked up on why I was telling you.
So I was like, sure thing, if that's what you want to do.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And is it intended to be like a short campaign, like he's got an ending in mind, or is it like an ongoing open-ended thing?
Well, we were doing the calculations, so we're going to try to film for 5 hours per session and release 1 episode, roughly between 30 minutes minimum to an hour maximum, every second week, every fortnight, which means we need to do 5 sessions throughout the year for a full year's worth of content. But he asked me he was saying, I actually would like to do longer if that's okay. He wants to move through narratively in a way that's satisfying, not pushing pushing things that maybe make you feel a little bit jagged. So it's probably going to end up being a rather long form.
Because that's the discussion we were having about the future of the Viva channel the other day. We were like, I was bringing up like the Tales of the Misfits was great length. It was originally going to be 6 sessions. We managed to get them to give us 7 because I just said like after session 5 I was like I can't satisfying. I could wrap this up in another session, but it would feel rushed. I want 2 more sessions to be able to get to the end of what we've done, and they gave us one. And so, like I've told them, the guys, like in future, we don't necessarily want this open-ended Azarim situation, because we don't want it to be going for 5 years with no end in sight. As much as the fans are loving it, the story is so huge, and there's so much happened, and so many characters that they've met and stuff, it's difficult for new players to jump on board, as we were saying before. And so we were talking about where's the sweet spot? How many episodes can we film? And Adam was like, what if we did like 4 table sessions? What would that be? And I was like, we can get through more stories, like we can tell lots of sort of stories within the world of Azarim, like make it like a cinematic universe, so to speak, connect these stories, show different areas of the world that we haven't seen, see different characters. We can explore like what's an evil campaign look like with where you're all playing orcs and goblins and stuff. What is this campaign? What is this? And I've got all sorts of ideas. I was like, yeah, we could do that. There's pluses and minuses. One of the cons to that is like I lose out on some of the ability to tie into character background and stories and stuff. I feel like in the 7 episodes of Tales of the Misfits, we were able to get a nice sneaky arc with the circus and stuff. We got like a really nice Arrow arc. We got through her story. We got Bublay's thing. Horatio kind of fell off the wayside a little bit, mainly because Ree specifically told me at the beginning, like she wasn't interested in exploring that backstory. She didn't give me as much of an in-depth backstory. She was like, I worked at a gladiator ring. So I kind of tied in Horatio's like gladiator ring stuff with the rest of it, but I respected her wish to not, like she didn't want to be the focus of a single arc of it or whatever. But I feel like the 4 of you got the time you wanted within a 7 episode thing. I think with 4 episode or 4 table session thing, you'd lose that. I don't feel like in 4 table sessions at like 3.5, 4 hours a time, I wouldn't be able to grab a nice beginning, middle, end to the story as a whole, and also inject 4 different character arcs. And so I said that's just something we'd have to be aware of if that's the style we went for with 4 sessions or 6 or 8. They all have their pros and cons. So it's always worth knowing going into it, like how long is this going to be? How long are we wanting this to be? Because the other thing is you can always tell when a movie that comes out is like, holy shit, that did really well. And then the studios go, let's make a sequel. And then the sequel is like, why didn't that do so well? Because it wasn't designed, like the story wasn't designed to be 2 stories. It was everything it needed to be in a movie, and it was great. And then you were like, let's keep going with the characters, but they've already achieved what they wanted to in the goal. They did their full hero's journey, and now we're tacking on another story. Whereas in something like Lord of the Rings, all 3 films were filmed simultaneously. It was always designed to be a trilogy, and and you can tell like one story is it's contained but not self-contained. It's not like it's contained enough that it's like a satisfying movie. Yeah. But the story's not finished. Yeah. And you can always tell that when, like, if you get to the end, if you go into your D&D campaign, you're like, oh, this campaign's going to be 5 sessions, and then at the end of the 5 sessions, you're like, oh, people are really enjoying it. Let's extend it. That's always going to be different than if you'd have gone, let's make it 10 to begin with. Yeah. You can do it, but it's always. I feel like it's going to be better to. It's always going to be better to be like, let's decide how long it's going to be before we start, and then have some flexibility in exact amounts, but like. It's not going to fluctuate wildly. Like
not going to be like a million episodes.
So outside of Viva D&D, the Tales of the Misfits stuff, you started with the One Hit Wonders stuff, and then Tales of the Misfits ended, and we finished the last green screen of that. Very emotional at the time. It was. And then what was next after that? Did you? That's when you started your business stuff. No, your business stuff was while we were doing Tales of the Misfits.
Yeah, my business was while we were doing. Well, actually, I was having really bad health issues, having seizures.
Right.
And throughout the process, I ended up finding out that I was autistic, diagnosed yesterday.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Always
spicy.
Join the club.
Yeah.
Now you've got a pass.
Yeah.
I'm officially allowed in this club now.
Yeah, I'm allowed in.
I don't have to feel like an imposter when I say, oh, I think I might be that.
Yeah,
and you don't have to put all these qualifiers on it anymore. You're like, I have an official person's diagnosis that says I'm allowed to be here.
Yeah, I have a professional who has worked with me over 6 months now.
Nice.
To come to this diagnosis, and it's been like personally, it's been really freeing and really helpful for me, and helping me learn kind of where my limits are. Yeah. Because I have so many ideas, and I have so many ideas.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, so many ideas, so many things I want to do, and it's been really like a very big thing for me having to come to grips with the actual limitations that I have, and sometimes I'll be so overwhelmed over a day, and on my like list of things to do in the day, I need to go to the grocery store, and I just can't, or I go there, and then like it might trigger a seizure happening. So it's been really, really interesting, and I've in kind of this break, I'm now in a much better place, and I'm very happy that I finally got my diagnosis.
Yeah, I bet.
But throughout that was a lot of having to learn myself and understand myself, and
so that's been the majority of your focus, I imagine, over the last wee while.
Yeah. This year has been quite a wild ride. Having Tales of the Misfits was so fun and amazing, and now I realize I'm so into D&D. Special interest.
Yeah, I got her.
You got me. And then kind of spending a big portion on it, having to face a lot of myself and learning myself, and then now being more like, okay, cool, well, this is what I want to move into in the next year, working on One Hit Wonders.
How about the acting career? Are you still doing any acting? You getting auditions?
I've taken quite a big step back, actually, especially in the process of realizing I was autistic, and realizing, like actors will know, when you just randomly get given an audition, one thing that I had always struggled with is like having a routine. That's such an important thing, for autistic individuals. And just all of a sudden being like, here's this audition, you've got to do this now.
Tomorrow.
Yeah,
it's like, can you make 2:00 tomorrow? And you're like, no. And they're like, well, you've got to. And you're like, well, why did you ask?
Exactly.
Uproot everything that you were going to do tomorrow to get around this audition, and you have to make that toss-up of like, is it, even if I did get it, is it worth me having to change this thing tomorrow?
Yeah. There's a lot of that. So I actually have taken quite a big step back at the moment. But I think that's been the best thing for my health, and I haven't missed it. Which I told myself, like, if I feel like I'm really missing it, like I'll get back into it, but I haven't yet. So
I did the exact same thing in 2017 when I realised that acting wasn't bringing me joy anymore, and I decided like I'm going to take it back to being a hobby, because the last time I was truly excited and happy about acting was like doing it as a 15-year-old on stage in amateur dramatics, not getting paid for it, doing it as your pastime. And I'll go back to academia and study that. And that's when I discovered D&D and realised, oh, acting was scratching the itch of Dungeons and Dragons. This is what I've actually always wanted to do.
I kind of felt that too, because like, even with acting, you get a role, you have a TV show, or you're in a movie or whatever, I don't really feel like it narratively satisfies me so much. Like Sneaky has been so fun because I got to really like, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a control thing, but like, I got to like
write my character, essentially.
I got to write my character and you know, kind of be able to fulfill these things that I wanted to do, and I found the process so much more joyful.
I think that touches on an element of why I, as a dungeon master, am always reluctant to kill a player character. I know a lot of dungeon masters are like, kill them, they can make another character. It's part of the drama. It's fun. It keeps them on edge of being like, oh, my characters are never safe. And I'm like, oh, but I know that I would hate that. Most of the time, I would hate that as a player playing that character, because I'd be like, but my character arc's never fulfilled. Like I didn't get to where that character needed to go. Like I was setting up this whole thing to have it pay off later. If I'd have just killed Sneaky, I was going to call her Nixie, and I was like, no, that's the character that joined the actor of Nixie. There's too many Nixies. If I'd have just killed Sneaky, around the time that you were doing the fucking flute thing, and you're at the deepest part of your darkness, and it's like, oh, that was satisfying.
Just watch this. And just die.
Which is why, like, my compromise to that is always to just come up with what happens when they die and don't make it the end of the story. Like, I'm not opposed to killing player characters if the situation occurs. It's just I've already thought about the contingencies of, okay, well, what's the afterlife look like, and what are the resurrection rules, and how does somebody bring them back if they do die, so that we can complete their story. They can bring them back, but we also don't lose the danger element of you're going into a stupid battle that you could have avoided, and this is on you. You're gonna die.
Because I remember you telling me when we had the Tree of Life, when we came across the Tree of Life. And it's so funny you said this, because you had planned for if I'd use the Tree of Life to resurrect Chi-Chi, or Dahlia. I thought about it at the table, but I was like, oh, the last session was so like about me. Like,
I don't want to drag this down.
How rude would it be if I'm like, okay, but wait, I'm doing this.
And this is another reason to go back to why not all actual plays work as like as a visual element for public, rather than like, yes, you might be having fun as a table, but like making it a product that people can watch. It requires your players not only being good Dungeons and Dragons players, but being good actors and understanding story. Like you having that instinct in the moment was exactly what we need for something like the Tales of the Misfits, because you were able to recognize from a visual filmmaker, storyteller perspective, this story so far has been pretty heavily sneaky. This arc is clearly Rob setting up like Bublé's thing, and it's Bublé's time to shine, and it's Bublé's patron and all of this. And we're leading from that into the water, which is going to be Bublé's like understanding of who she is, who they are. And you had that correct instinct and was able to be like, I'll have that time with Chi-Chi later. We'll be able to have that later. For now, it's fine. I was talking with Tom earlier today about that's why I think Critical Role works so well, and why it got so popular so quickly, is because they're all actors, they're all voice actors, and they're all very patient at sitting there and going, they're clearly having a one-on-one scene. Matt's allowing it. I'm just going to be silent. They know they've got great comedic timing, all of them, so they know when to jump in and be like, here's a stupid little joke or whatever. But they're also happy to just sit there for like 40 minutes of silence while those guys are having a scene, and then those guys are having a scene, and then this person's having a scene, and then okay, we move on together. And
absolutely.
I think it's a necessary element of making like a really a successful actual play.
Because I think like obviously you see comments and people are like, why didn't they do this? And you're like, you realise this is not the same as you playing with your friends. Like
we're not playing for optimization. We're playing for fun still. Fun is still one of the primary goals for us, but also making a product that people will want to watch is the primary goal.
And there's that extra layer that I think a lot of people don't realize as they're consuming media that that's something that people aren't older thinking about. Yeah.
So where were we? So you've gotten through the last few months of your primary focus has been on your health and understanding who you are and getting this diagnosis finally. Congratulations on that. You're taking a step back from acting. Have you been doing anything other creative stuff in the meantime? You've been writing. You've been.
I have been. Oh well.
Doing any? Do you do anything with music? Are you a musical person?
Oh, I actually I do quite enjoy music. I listen to the same song on repeat all the time.
Wait, are you autistic?
Maybe. It's so funny because I would tell people that and they're like, oh, everyone listens on repeat, but I used to listen to, before Spotify and stuff, it was YouTube listen on repeat and it showed you how many plays.
Oh, yeah.
And when Fall Out Boy Centuries came out, I love Fall Out Boy. I listened to it and I was like, yeah, I listen to the same song on repeat. Like, everyone does that. I'm like, no, I listened to it 256 times. In the first week. Like,
that's funny.
Yeah. Oh my God. All the signs now looking back at life is so clearly.
Yeah, right.
But I actually I don't have it with me anymore. But I had a keyboard and I would like to write my own songs. But I don't have that with me at the moment. So I haven't been writing. I've just been really enjoying listening to Epic the Musical, which is it's about Homer's Odyssey, and again is Greek
mythology.
Greek mythology. But I have been making a lot of costumes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Which is quite interesting because when I think about making my characters and developing them in storytelling, I kind of think of each decision being like a thread as I'm weaving together the tapestry. Nice. Yeah, and I become that character when I put it on, and I am me again myself when I take it off. So it's been really, I fucking love like having it tangibly in my hand.
Great.
Yeah.
That's cool. And you like, what sort of fabrics and materials do you like to make your costumes out of?
So I use a lot of satin because satin is particularly cheap and it's quite, it's very pretty, and when the light hits it, you can get away with kind of having more basic shapes.
Right.
But they appear better because of the fabric. Although satin is very difficult to work with, just if anyone.
I was going to say, isn't it really difficult to sew?
Yeah, it is. It's very slidey. So I started self-teaching myself how to sew with satin, and then I went to a course where we use like cotton, and I like ate up the course. I was like, whoa, I was learning on hard mode the whole time.
I took the training weights off.
yeah. It's like, oh, right, I ran before I walked. But anyway, but I've also really gotten into using Warbler, which is a thermoplastic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and kind of leaning...
You made a corset out of that stuff.
I did,
Looked really nice. Yeah,
thank you.
Really good stuff.
And kind of leaning more to like mixed media. We use a lot of different forms, which is something prevalent. A lot of cosplayers will understand that. And
is that an avenue you're interested in?
Yeah,
cosplay?
I'm definitely interested in cosplay. At first, I had quite a limited view on it, and I thought that I like to design. Like I want to create my own designs. But I've seen who is Julia on TikTok and YouTube and stuff. She does a lot of mixed media inspired by cosplays.
Right.
And that is my like bread and butter. That's my niche.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, you can make like ratatouille, but you can make yourself the restaurant. Like,
yeah. You can use a character or a media as a inspiration for. You don't have to just be like, I have to make that character in the costume that they wear.
Yeah. So that is more the avenue I'm leaning towards, and it's Christmas soon, so I might reward myself with buying more cosplay shit.
Hell yeah, get into it. That's awesome. So you've been doing that as your like main creative outlet, you'd say?
Yeah, probably my main creative outlet. It's just literally like I've just been focusing on health and then doing that and crocheting as well, which is just kind of another form of I'm crocheting tops and clothing. Right. Kind of I'm very interested in the weaving together, like whether it's in storytelling or
that's cool. Taking things that didn't exist and then by your hand putting them together into another thing that didn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. Like you.
That's cool. Do you like cooking? Because it's a similar sort of aspect.
Yes and no. I'm very bad with timing of
can't tell me about it. I have that problem too.
Yeah, I make a mean meal in a crock pot though.
yeah. I can make a fantastic like roast dinner individually.
Yeah, same.
These are great mashed potatoes that are stone cold because the peas weren't done yet. Or the
My mashed potatoes slap.
forgot to start thawing that out in time for that didn't all of that didn't come together at the right time. The people who can somehow keep all of these different things aspect and I'm just going to saute these things while I'm doing that and this time to that, put those in the microwave now because this is going to. Like, what are you doing?
I know, they're incredible. I'm like watching Aliens. I don't know.
I've got like the HelloFresh or the Best Bucks or whatever it is the food services, and I'm like going over it line by line. Okay, put the thing on the thing. Okay, do that. The dash of the thing. Okay, I've done that. Okay, next session. I've got to put the thing in the thing. Okay, do that one. line by line. And sometimes I can get like, this is a really nice meal out of this.
Oh, nice. My stuff's great, but half of it's cold.
With my ex, I was always like, I'm the sous chef. I will. You decide what we're cooking and how we're cooking, then you tell me exactly what to do, and I'll do it. Hey, can you chop these carrots for me? Yeah. What next? What next, chef? Give me something else to do. I'll work under instruction.
Same. Yeah, I'll make a good sous chef. I just need someone to be the chef.
So we've kind of moved into sort of like present day and towards future. We know like the immediate future is your one-hit wonders. That's going to be your focus in the new year. Beyond that, though, into like far future, like what's your plans? What would you love to happen? Like blue sky, several years from now, where would you love to be? What would you be doing?
Yeah, ideally, in terms of taking a break from acting, I still love working with Viva, and I guess maybe it's because I know everyone, and it's more of a kind of set expectation. I guess again more comfort in with me being autistic and kind of like knowing how things run and roll. So I'd love to be in more Viva stuff all the time.
Viva Phyllis. Love to get more jobs, please.
I feel like hire me. I know. Ben Williams, who helps direct
the D&D stuff.
The D&D stuff. I did see a comment that he left. Someone said, "Please bring Phoenix back," and he said, "We will." I screenshot it.
Now we can hold him to it.
Yeah.
That's good. Ben's super on board with having you back for stuff, and as am I. Yeah. I am definitely on high up on the list of guests for future things. We talked about the future of the D&D channel just the other day. We had like a little meeting to catch up and say like, right, after this campaign's over soon, what is the next thing? Yeah. Obviously, we're writing the setting book, which is going to be coming to Kickstarter at some point, so that people can start playing their own games in the world of Azrim. We want to have like shorter. The flagship of the channel will always be like a campaign, but that campaign will be more like Tales of the Misfits length at most. Like we're thinking about 6 sessions probably. That goes for most of the year, but then we do one-shots and stuff throughout of like maybe not even D&D, like party games, board games, card games and dice games. We can also do and things like that, and we can do one-shots like the Grant Howitt one-shots, which are just a single page RPGs and stuff.
I've heard of the Grant Howitt one-shots. I was thinking I might do some as my first.
They're a really good introduction to running games because they're so rules light, then they're all about narrative and having fun. So they're a really good introduction to that. We'll be doing. I've got ideas galore. I also want, like, in an ideal world, we'd be running, like, I'd be making tips and tricks videos for Viva of, like, here's how to get into D&D or role-playing games, and here's DM tips and stuff. There's a million and one things that I want to do more behind-the-scenes stuff of, like, me talking about things that happened during the campaign and being like, here, let's have a deep dive into this particular arc of the campaign. I'll tell you about my notes and how I prepared for it and what I was expecting and what went wrong and what could have happened if they'd have done things differently. But it all comes down to like, I'm an ideas man. I can have a million ideas, but ultimately this is the D&D channel's their second channel, and they've got an entire other sketch channel to keep up with, and they've got a whole filming schedule for that, and the board and the Epic NPC man and all the other stuff that they do. And so they have to slot in all of my ideas to be like, we've got time and budget and stuff for this many of your ideas. So at some point in the future, you'll definitely be back for something related to the D&D stuff.
You heard it here.
But in the meantime, we've got to make our own stuff. That's why I have my own channel. That's why people are watching here. That's why people are going to be watching your one-hit wonders. just aware of time. I don't want to be keeping you forever past the time you've got. So I also asked my Discord for questions. Let them know that I was going to be chatting with you today, and they've asked some questions. So let's start getting into those ones. Michael asks, Phoenix has worked on several series and short films in recent years. Is there a noticeable difference working with Rob and Viva or the other teams?
The biggest notable difference is still like continuing to have a relationship with you guys and coming back for more work, because generally how it works as an actor, you're kind of just contracted in, and you do have an amazing time and make lifelong friends, and I'm still friends with like everybody from everything, but you just don't see them as often, and I feel like it just has more of a connection.
It almost feels like contractual friends, which sounds weird, but like you're genuine friends while you're working together on a film or whatever, and then that film ends, and everybody's just kind of okay with it being like that was what it was, and we'll pick up that friendship again if we work on something again together. Whereas the Viva is much more like you're going to be part of the world, and you're going to be brought back in for various different things here and there. I was trying to think the other day about which Viva products I hadn't been involved in yet, because I've been in board, and I've been an Epic NPC man, and obviously D&D Logic. I was in first person shooter Logic. I haven't been in PUBG, which I don't even know if they make the PUBG skits anymore. I'm not sure. They haven't had a major focus on it for a while. But I haven't been in that yet, so maybe one day we'll get in that. It's always fun to be like, which of the series can I wean my way into?
We need like a bingo card.
Bingo card. See if I can get bingo of all of the Viva skits. Redial asks, what has been your favourite role to play so far, and what role would you really like to play in the future?
Oh, that's a good question. That's quite hard. Like, Sneaky is probably my favourite, because obviously you get to have, like as I was saying, that more narratively fulfilling role. But Willow will always have a soft spot, because she was my first, role with Viva.
Was it a fun role to play Willow? Like, you enjoyed the process? Did it give you much? Because obviously playing like an NPC who can only say so much. Like, was it a challenge? Was it enjoyable?
I gave myself a bunch of like headcanon to help help push me more, so that I had a little bit more life behind me than just kind of like, oh, NPC, oh, damsel, like so. One of the headcanon things I did, I was like, why are the orcs like after me in particular? And like with the orc talking about wanting to eat me, I was like, magic. I'm magic.
Yep.
I'm super magic.
I'm super magical. I've got inherent magics within me, and the orcs are going for it.
Yeah, and like if they eat me, they get super powerful, and they could politically take over everything. But I need to keep a secret because no one can know.
Nice. Gives yourself a secret. That's one of the things that like photographers always tell you when you're taking like acting headshots. Like, have a secret. Like, have something going on that like and they don't, and that makes you interesting. People can read that and go, ooh, there's something there that I wanted to know more about, rather than just like dead-eyed or glassy and there's nothing going on. Like, think of something that and they don't. Have you read the comic book that they made? Epic Outage or something? Hero Outage?
Oh no, I haven't. No.
I got a copy the other day when I was in the studios and took it home and read it. I will not say anything, but you should read it.
Okay. Do you think
they'll have a copy here? You can grab them, sure. I really want to know Phoenix's journey into D&D. We talked a little about that already. We did Rob Hooker on it, yes. What sort of things you've done since? We've seen we've answered these in great detail. Dinah's Revenge asks, how do you typically prepare for a table session when you're playing D&D? Do you watch the previous episode? Do you make notes, or do you just meet and text with me, etc.?
I feel like it's a little bit of all three. I remember we'd sometimes get to see the rushes of the previous episode, which would help. And I'd also try to be pretty avid in my note-taking, so that as we were preparing before, I would sit down and I'd read through my notes. I continuously try to do something where it's basically a cheat sheet. It's where I like make notes of particularly notable things or like abilities that I have, or
remind yourself.
Remind myself.
This is a thing I can do.
Yeah, so mostly I turn to my notes, but as a bit of all three.
And usually, if I need you to know something or remember something that I feel you may not have because it's been months since we had it in a particular session, especially if it's like something that's paying off in session 7 that we didn't we set up in session 1. I haven't mentioned. I'll often like start like before the day before the session or whatever. I'll send it in a Discord chat up and be like, hey, just to remind you, apropos of nothing, we had this.
This happened.
This thing happened. Remember, it may come up in tomorrow's game.
Yeah.
Do you approach D&D as more of a game with the same roleplay for entertainment, or do you see it more as acting a character that interacts with improvised situations?
Sorry, I'm a little confused by the question.
Yeah, do you approach D&D as more of a game with some roleplay for entertainment? So it's a game predominantly, but there's also some roleplay that is entertainment purposes, or do you see it more the roleplay is the thing, and then you have improvised situations based on the GM and the dice, and the game is like secondary?
Yeah, I think it actually changed. I think at first I approached it more of an acting thing and focusing more on improvisation. Now, I feel like I would like to think that I've got a pretty good balance.
I think that's one of the things I love about it. I don't like people say like, storytelling comes first. Ignore all the rules, ignore the dice. Like it doesn't matter if they don't let them get in the way. And I appreciate that, but I also think like I really like it being a game. I always tend to go, okay, narratively this is I want to yes and you, so let's see if the dice allow me to yes and you. Yeah, let's see. And if it doesn't, then I'll know but.
Yeah.
It's not only yes and that you need in an improv, it's no but. Sometimes you're like, no, you're not going to be able to do that, but I'll give you a compromise or whatever.
So
I like the dice being involved as an actual game. I like coming up with game mechanics of like, yes, you might want that to happen, but this is a game we're playing. Let's see if it happens. And I'll have a table written out of like, if you completely fail, then absolutely no, it doesn't happen. And if you completely succeed, yes, you get it and more. I do like the game aspect, and I feel like I've got a good handle on a mixture of both of those things.
Because I actually watched one of your streams where you talked about my story arc with Sneaky, and someone replied in your chat saying something like, isn't that just like a short film then? And it was like, no, because I don't necessarily get to do all the things that I want to do, and there's still that risk of like, this is what I would like. I remember I would say to you like, this is what I would like to do, keeping in mind that the dice gods might not allow me.
Let's see if it plays out like that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about being typecast as a small, adorable, sweet little girl in a lot of skits based on your physical traits? Was your sneaky character meant to be a twist on that? Would you like to play a more sinister character?
I don't really feel like I've been typecast. I understand like Willow and the Maiden are particularly, kind of damsel in the same sort
Rowan's
of
niece is definitely a deliberate twist on that. You expect you to be beautiful and sweet and cute and whatever, and then you turn out to be like this little...
Yeah, exactly. And then there was Lavinia, who was, just a cunning little...
Lavinia... from the D&D Legend. It's like the name rings a bell. Oh yeah, that one that the one that I wrote and directed and yes.
So
the rogue.
Yeah, I don't feel any particular way about typecasting it in particular. And also outside of Viva, I get quite an array. I've played quite a bunch of different characters. I think maybe for them, like my most popular stuff has been Willow and the Death Knight skit. So yeah.
If you had to pick one characteristic about D&D that appeals to you most, what is it?
Oh, if I had to pick, if I had to pick one thing.
Pick your favorite child. Go.
Oh no. I guess it's. Oh, this is so hard. I have to choose between like backstory and like the narrative and role playing, and they are quite like intertwined, but they are slightly different. I think I would have to put backstory. It's
interesting.
Yeah, okay. I just love the fulfilling storytelling.
It's a good thing to remind new DMs as well that that's not the same for all players, and that some players are really for story, not backstory. Like some players, Ree was a decent example of this. She wasn't interested in giving me a bunch of backstory. She was interested in seeing where Horatio became, rather than who she was to begin with. Do you regret letting Sneaky feed Calzette to the frog hemoth?
Yes!
To be fair, you didn't really have much of a choice in that. You guys were dilly-dallying for so goddamn long about what to do with this body that I was like, tongue streaks out and fucking eats the body.
I felt quite...
choice made.
I felt conflicted about it because... everyone else on the table was like, get rid of him, get rid of him, get rid of him. If it could have been just particularly what I wanted, I wouldn't have got rid of him. which then I would have found out would have been
useful later
Yeah.
when you're like, oh, by the way, we killed the guy who you've been selling to, so
Here he is.
what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah. So yeah, if it were up to me, I wouldn't have let that happen. But I was trying to be a team player, and also we took too long, so we got eaten anyway.
I was like, look, we need to move things along. The NPC eats it. What's your favourite snack when you're playing D&D? What's your table snack?
Tiny teddies.
Oh, that's so good. That's a good choice. Tiny teddies are
I
good.
love the tiny teddies. I checked. I don't have any today.
No, bugger. You played a fairy rogue in that campaign. What would you like to play in the next campaign?
Oh, I have so many character ideas.
Go into the drawer of characters that we've all got.
Go into the vault.
I've still got some character ideas that I've had since like I started getting into D&D 9 years ago that I've never actually eventualized.
I really would like to. I just think it would be cute, but I'd have to do some thinking to how to make this more of a fleshed out character. But I'd love to be a little like Nana cleric, and she like heals people. Like, let me heal that. Yeah, like
that's good. It's similar to a character that I've never actually played. Is like a full pessimist. Full pessimist. Just like it's just really a full pacifist of like a character that takes no weapons, no offensive damage, no nothing, and is all about just healing and buffing and like reducing calm emotions and things to like slow a thing down. If I have to take anything offensive, it's things like web that are just like sticky, like get you all stuck up, and then be like and then we'll drop it if somebody uses that to be like, oh, now I can strike him with advantage. I'll be like, no, I didn't web them up so that you can hit them harder. No, I'm trying to web them up so that you can stop fighting. Like just leaning into like a real pacifist kind of a let's not have any violence. That's interesting.
That's very cool.
Have her talk about her love of costume design. I think we touched on a little of that. How did you come up with your D&D character? We talked a little about Sneaky and where she came from. Was it hard to choose out of a variety of species in the class? Was it overwhelming at all of like the number of choices you had available to you?
Oh, a little bit. I knew, actually I guess this leans back a little bit maybe to that typecast question. I'm aware that I'm small. I'm like the shortest member of Viva.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'2".
5'2".
Or 5'1". I'm 500. 500.
500.
I'm 500. I'm 157 centimeters.
157.
And
okay.
I first got told it was 5'2", but it might be 5'1".
I mean, let's ask Dr. Google right now. You're definitely 157 centimeters.
I'm definitely 157.
Because we use normal things here.
Yeah.
We use normal units here. All right, 157 centimeters is 5'2". Oh. Nope. It's because it's a fraction between.
Oh.
In feet and inches. Let's have a look. 157 centimeters in feet and inches is it's 5 foot 1.811. So you're closer to 5'2".
Okay.
You round up. You would round up to 5'2".
I'm 5'2". What's Sabrina Carpenter's song? I made quite an impression. 5'2" to be exact. Or 5.18.
What am I? I'm 181, which is 5'11.26. I'm 5'11 and a quarter.
Right, yeah.
Well, when I'm standing up. Because of gravity, your spine compresses slightly. So if you measure yourself lying down versus standing up, you usually gain a centimeter or two.
Well, I'm definitely 5'2".
You're 5'2" lying down.
Yeah. Anyway, being aware that I was small, and because there had been that discussion about the logistics of height or whatever, I had already picked fairy, but with even more of that in mind, I was like, I'll
be a Goliath.
Yeah. Well, I have thought it'd be really funny, the next one, if I pick a really tall class and just. Yeah. I wonder if I get told that I can't.
Lean into being a Goliath. It would be funny. I don't know. It depends if they'd be willing to just be like, let's do it for the joke.
Yeah.
I think it depends on whether it's like the flagship campaign or whether it's a one shot.
Yeah, I'm sure a one shot.
Although one shots, I don't think we'll be doing green screen for one shots.
Right, yeah.
I think that's part of the budgetary compromises. Like we can't afford to be doing green screens on everything because it's quite an expense to have an entire extra day of like bringing in all the camera equipment and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And every time we're doing green screen, it's a day that they can't be hiring out that green screen to other filming crew. How do you feel about how Siniki's character started and how she grew as a character and her character arc?
Oh, fucking love it. Actually,
very satisfied.
Yeah, very satisfied. Oh, is swearing okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I remember, I really want to point this part out. When it was either the first session or the second session when I had purposely tripped someone to get a blood nose. And people were like, oh, that's so funny, oh, chaos. One person commented being like, Sneaky is low-key a bad person. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, she is. I want you to see that.
Yeah, she's got some messed up stuff that we're gonna be working on.
That was deliberate because I wanted to understand how a vampire would react because I was doing research in necromancy.
And that's psychopathic behavior to be like, I need this thing just for curiosity, to satiate my curiosity or my need for research. I need to hurt somebody to do that. Yeah. Don't hesitate. I'll just hurt that person to get what I want. Yeah. That's psychopathy. Yeah, but obviously in the context of it's a comedy thing, and we're used to the Adventures of Azrim stuff because it's very early in the campaign as well. So people were expecting the same sort of thing from both games. Yeah. I really love that we managed to juxtapose both games, like have them both airing simultaneously, like one on Tuesdays, one on Thursdays, so that people can realize. Oh, D&D doesn't have to be one thing. It's not all dick jokes a minute, and it's not all this, and like you can, like, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's one particular way of playing, and you can also have more deep moments of like emotional connection, and then come back up for air as with a joke or two at the end. So I cottoned onto that sort of stuff early with Sneaky. I was like, oh, she wants to play her as like a, she's messed up, and she's going to work through that trauma during this campaign. Tara asks, if you could tell your younger self, any age, one thing about the future, what would it be besides winning lottery numbers?
You're autistic.
Right? Bam. Hey, by the way. You're autistic. See life through that lens and everything will make a lot more sense a lot earlier.
And it gets better, Yeah. You're autistic and it gets better.
Do you think things would be remarkably different now if you hadn't done Baelin's route?
Oh, 100%.
What sort of direction do you reckon you'd be taking if you weren't?
Baelin's route, was sort of my biggest break in acting, and it also helped, because I've always loved video games and all that sort of stuff. Doing that and being a part of something that is Viva and kind of touches on social media content, it allowed me to be able to stream, and I got to stream straight away to an audience, and it's so helpful. Acting it seems so fun and lavish, which it is, but it also is very hard in the interim. You're kind of you don't have money, you don't know which job you're going to have.
People will be like, you got paid how much just for a day of shooting a commercial? And you're like, and I won't get any money for the next 3 months. I won't get another job. I've got to make it last. Yes, I got $5,000, but it's $5,000 over 3 months.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people don't realise that about acting.
Yeah, exactly. So streaming
very difficult
has helped be a way to kind of
bring another fortify yourself, take your eggs out of one basket and be like, here's some other stuff that we can be doing.
Yeah, exactly. And then allows me the freedom to be able to act or pursue the things that I like.
Let's try lightning round these last few because I don't want you to run out of time. How is preparing to play Sneaky at a table session different to other acting roles? Do you approach them the same way, or?
I approach them pretty similarly, other than kind of watching myself a lot more in the third person and keeping in mind the game mechanics of D&D, and also keeping in mind being a good player for everyone to deal with. I didn't want to be just murder hobo, and I wanted to make sure that I'm not overstepping other people's or not only wanting to do my ideas and that sort of thing. So kind of approach the role playing the same way I'm approaching a character, but just had an extra awareness in the things I was doing and the way I was behaving.
Centauri asks, would you ever be interested in doing any behind the camera work, writing, directing, camera work, lighting?
Yes. Yeah, that's
all of that.
Yeah.
Interesting, yes. Just yes. All aspects of filmmaking in general.
Yes.
Costume department, you could just get into costuming.
Yeah.
Nival Shade, are you interested in being a DM someday? We've talked about that. That's coming soon to the One Hit Wonders at some point in the future. And Matt finally says, bravo on the girls campaign. Everyone seems to be having a lot of fun learning how to D&D, as well as picking up on clues and solving the challenges that Rob comes up with. Do you ever catch yourself thinking about VLDL D&D campaigns between sessions?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I assume you're laughing because I'm messaging Rob going.
Phoenix is my most engaged player out of Viva League. Out of all the people you've seen me play D&D with, through a Viva capacity at least, Phoenix is the one that is the most evidently thinking about the character between sessions and asking me questions about stuff and pitching ideas of like working with me as the collaborative storytelling game that it is, like working with me to be like, I'd love for my character to get the opportunity to do this, or I'd love for this sort of a scene at some point if possible. And I'm like, noted, take that down, put that in. Let's it's not gonna fit next session. Let me push it here. Let me go this, and let me get this scene ready in case she interacts with the Tree of Life and asks her to bring back her sister. Well, she didn't, but I'm not wasting that, so I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take that for later. Yeah, that's good stuff. All right, well, that was the last of the questions we got from the audience, and that's just in time for the end of the short rest. So we've got our Warlock spell slots back. We've got our key points from being a monk. We've got some hit dice rolled. And we're ready to continue on this heist to steal this soul jar from this golden dragon horde. Is there anywhere that people should follow you, follow your work? Where do people go to see more of your stuff?
So if you want to follow me in particular, I'm the Phoenix Cross, again, OE to spell Phoenix. That's my username on Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere, all my socials, same username.
Nice.
And then One Hit Wonders, if you're interested in watching us do more D&D stuff, you can follow, again, One Hit Wonders, spelt WON for the one, and otherwise it's normal, One Hit Wonders. Again, on every social media platform, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, yeah.
Nice. Go follow those things. If you're here just for Phoenix and this is the first you've seen of my channel, I'm Robert Hartley, GM. Obviously, if you didn't know that, kudos on making it to the end of the video. Don't forget to check out the rest of this playlist where you can see me short resting with a whole bunch of other people from the D&D community and the Viva community as well. I've got a short rest with Britt and a short rest with Adam and Ben. They were one of my first ones, and a whole bunch more as well. So stick around the channel, make sure to subscribe, like the video, all that good algorithm stuff, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much for joining me, Phoenix, and thank you guys for joining me too. Bye-bye.
Hey there, I'm talking to you. You rock. Thank you for watching my stuff. Really appreciate it.